Okay, we're going to start our video that you're going to watch instead of coming to class on Tuesday. So we're going to be talking about something called measures of center. All right, now measures of center, another word for that would be averages. So think about when you were in high school and you asked your teacher for your average, and she said, well, your average in math is a 95. Now, did that mean that you made a 95 in everything that you turned in? Of course not. That just meant if he or she had to pick one number that best represented your grades, then that's the grade that they would do. So hopefully that, you know, your other things that you turned in kind of centered around that 95. Now we're going to talk about 4 different ways to do measures of center. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you, and I'm going to kind of talk you through it. And then you'll have some homework on this. So, and you'll just have to save all your homework questions kind of till the next time that I see you. Okay? So let's see if we can do this. All right. Here we go. All right. So measures of center. The first kind of measure of center is something called the mean. Now, kind of back to high school, when you went to the teacher and said, you know, I want to calculate my average. All right. What did you normally do? Didn't you get a list of grades from the teacher? And then what did you do with that list of grades? Didn't you add them up and then divide by how many they were? That kind of average is called a mean average. So when you hear average, what you normally think of is what they call a mean average. So let's talk about some math symbols, all right? This right here is the formula, okay? And it's on your formula sheet that's going to be on Moodle, all right? That funny looking E, all right, that funny looking E basically means sum. Okay, so that's where you're going to sum the data. It means add it up. And then remember that bar can always mean divided by. All right, so basically it tells you to add up your data and then divide by, and they put in by the number of pieces of data. So there's 2 symbols for mean. One's an X with kind of a bar over it. When you see that symbol, that stands for mean of a sample. Okay. And then mu is a Greek letter. It's kind of like a U with a little tail on it. And it's the mean of a population. So you're going to see both of those symbols throughout the semester. So get them straight now. X bar is mean of a sample, and mu is going to be mean of a population. So if I gave you a list of numbers and said find the mean of the data, then you would literally just add those numbers up. And when you got that answer, you divide by there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. Okay, so when you add all those numbers up, I got 173. You can double check me. You can always freeze the video. Okay, get your calculator out and double check and make sure you got the same thing. And when you divided that 173 by 6, I rounded off to 28.8. Now remember, those wavy lines warn somebody that your answer is not exactly right. So anytime you round off or approximate, you need to use that approximately equal to symbol. Now, the author breaks his own rules sometimes, but what he says is that he rounds to one more place of accuracy than the original data. Okay, so since his original data were whole numbers, that's why I chose to round to the tenths. So that's how you find a mean average. All right, look at another kind of average. Another kind of average is called median. Now, when you hear median, think about, what do you normally think of when you hear median? Don't you think about the middle of like the interstate? And see, that's what a median is. A median is a middle value in an ordered list, but that data has to be in order. So kind of your first step is to put the numbers in order. It doesn't matter if you go low to high or high to low, but they've got to be in order. And then you simply pick the middle value. Now, if you've got an odd number of pieces like this, it's not a problem. Okay, so there's your numbers, and I put them in order. I just arbitrarily went from small to big, and the middle number was 32, so the median's 32. Now, do you obviously see a potential problem? Okay, a potential problem is going to be, what if it's a different list? So what if there was another number at the list and it was 18? Well, see, when I put them in order, there are 2 numbers in the middle. Okay, well, what do I do if there are 2 numbers in the middle? I average them. Okay, so I simply took that 29 and added it to that 32 and got 61. And then when I divided 61 by 2, I got 30 and 5/10. So the median here would be 30 and 5/10. So if you've got an odd number of pieces of data, all right, then you simply pluck the number in the middle. And if you've got an even number of pieces of data, they're going to be 2 numbers in the middle. So you are going to have to, okay, kind of clear that. I'm going to clear all my drawings. All right. And then let's stop this annotate. Okay. Let's try it one more time. See if we can get it to quit. It's not happy today. Okay. So if there are an even number of pieces, there are going to be 2 numbers in the middle. And so what you'll do is you'll average them. So mean, add them all up, divide by how many you have. With median, put them in order and pick the middle number. All right, let's look at mode. All right, mode's another kind of average. So mode's the piece of data that occurs most often. And the way you used to remember that was mode had an O in it and often had an O in it. Okay, so if I gave you these numbers and told you to find me the mode, all right, then I simply started looking and I noticed, oh my goodness, 32 and 32 occur twice, and the other numbers only occur once. So my mode is 32. Now you can have more than one mode. So look right here. The 32 occurs twice, the 27's only once, the 35 occurs twice, the 29 and the 18 only occur once. So I've got 2 modes. I've got a 32 and a 35. So you can have more than one. It just cannot be every number in the list. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, look right here. 8, 10, 7, 16, 11, and 25. See, no number occurs more often than the others. They all occur once. So you would write down, there is no mode. All right, don't leave it blank. If you leave it blank, I'm going to assume you didn't know what to do. So if there's not a mode, then you just write down no mode. Now let me reiterate. Look right here at this example. I've got 2 16s and 2 12s and 2 8s. So every piece of data occurs 2 times. So again, there's no mode because no value occurs more often than the others. So it doesn't mean which value occurs more than once. It means which one occurs most often. So sometimes you'll have 1, sometimes you'll have more than 1, sometimes you won't have any. Okay, but it cannot be every number in the list. So if all the numbers occur once, no mode. If all the numbers occur 4 times each, no mode. So it can even be most of the numbers, it just can't be all the numbers. Okay, all right, so that's how I do mode. Okay, so now let's go do mid-range. All right, now mid-range is the number halfway between the minimum and the maximum. Okay, the number halfway between the minimum and the maximum. All right, so let's see what we need to do. Trying to see if I can get it to kind of do something for me. All right, so I looked in my list here, find the mid-range of these numbers, and I looked for the high and I looked for the low. Okay, well, my lowest value was 18. That's my smallest, and my biggest number in this list is 35. So I would take my low plus my high and just divide by 2. Okay, and I got 53 divided by 2, so I got 26 and 5/10. Okay. All right, so we okay. So mean, you add them all up, divide by how many you have. Mode is the one that occurs most often. All right. Median is you put them in order and you grab the middle number. And mid-range only uses 2 values, the smallest number and the biggest number. You add those 2 and divide by 2. Okay. So kind of try this one down here. All right. So what if you were doing mean? Now, I just went ahead and put the numbers in order, kind of from low to high. All right, you don't have to put the numbers in order to do several of them, but it seemed to be easier. So if you take 11 and you add it to 14, and you add 25, and you add 26, and you add another 26, and then you add a 30, and a 31, and a 32, it looks like I got 195 when I did that. Now, you double check me because I did it in a hurry. Okay. So 100, let's try it again, see if I can do it. It's hard to do with this pen. Let's try it over here. 100 and then 95. Okay, so how many numbers are in that list? Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I took that 195 and divided by 8, I get about 24.4. Okay, so that mean would be about 24, if I rounded, decimal 4. Now you stop the video and see if you agree. Okay, what about the mode? Does any number occur more often than the others? Do you see that there are two 26s? So my mode would be 26. Okay, now how do you get median? Now to do median, they do have to be in order from low to high. Okay, so I have to go to the middle number. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's one number in the middle. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, there's another number in the middle. So remember, when there are two numbers in the middle, you average them. But if you add 26 plus 26 and get 52 and then divide by 2, you get 26. So when you average 26 and 26, you get 26. Okay, so make sure that you agree. Now, what do I do to get mid-range? Well, mid-range, I just take this low number and I just take this high number and I add them. So if you add 11 to 32, does it make sense that you get 43? All right, and when you take that 43 and you divide by 2, you're going to get 21.5. So for my mid-range, I'm going to get 21.5. So you might want to stop the video and see if you got the same answers that I got for all 4 kinds of averages for this list of numbers. Okay, so I'm going to kind of clear all those drawings. All right, so let's go look at the next thing we have to be able to do. Okay, so that's finding some things on a list of numbers, what I call raw data. Well, what if you had a frequency table? What would you do if you had a frequency table? Well, the only thing they're going to ask you to do on a frequency table is to find the mean. They're not going to ask you to find the mode of a table or the mid-range or the median, but they are going to ask you to find the mean of a table. Well, here's the problem. I don't have my original numbers anymore. I only know that there were 2 numbers between 10 and 14. They could have been 2 10s, or it could have been an 11 and a 14. I just don't know what they were exactly. Same thing, I only know there were 5 numbers between 15 and 19 inclusive, but I don't know what they were. So I'm going to have to fudge a little bit. So if I don't know what the 2 numbers are between 10 and 14, what do you think might be the best thing just to use? Does it make sense that the best thing to use might be the midpoint? Because some of the numbers might be a little lower and some might be a little higher. So if I don't have my original list of numbers, I'm going to have to use the midpoints on a table as my data. So remember how you find a midpoint. You'd add this 10 to this 14, and when you do that, you're going to get a 12. Okay, so the midpoint right here is a 12, so I've got 2 12s. So I wrote down 2 12s. And then the midpoint of this one is a 17. So I pretended like I had 5 17s. Now really, I might have had a 15, 2 17s, an 18, a 19. You see what I'm saying? I don't know, but I have to kind of fudge a little bit. So since I didn't know what my number was, I used the midpoint of 22. I had 1 of those, and then 4 27s. And I can find the mean. Remember the mean, you just add them all up. So I added all those numbers up and got 239. And then I counted, and there were 12 numbers in my list. So I took 239 and divided by 12. Okay, and so that's how I got 19 and 9/10. Now, I could do this every time, but think about why this might be a problem to work it exactly this way. I mean, what if this was a 20 and a 50? I mean, you don't want to put down 50 17s, okay? So think about it. Chances are you probably didn't really type in 17 plus 17 plus 17 plus 17 plus 17. Your calculator, you probably just said, well, that's 5 17s. Remember, repeated addition is multiplication. So let me kind of show you the formula that you're going to see in your book for the mean of a frequency table. All right, here's what they're going to do. Okay. This is your formula for the mean of a frequency table. It's in your book and it's going to be on your formula sheet. Okay. Remember that funny looking E means to add. Now, F stands for frequency. Now, the whole semester in every formula, X stands for your data. But on a table, you don't have your original data anymore. So when you're doing a frequency table, your data is going to be your midpoints. Now, remember, we have to follow order of operations. So this says take every midpoint and multiply it by its frequency. It's in a parenthesis, so we have to do it first. Then when we finish that, we add those answers up. Now remember, we have to divide by our total. Well, how do you get the total numbers that must have been in your original list? Well, you add up the frequencies. So what if I told you to find the frequency of this table using this formula? Well, I would get the same answer I got on the previous slide, okay? But look at what I would have done. Our X's on tables are midpoints. So that says take the midpoint and multiply by the frequency. So if I take this midpoint of 12 and I multiply by that 2, that's where I got the 24. I take this midpoint of 17 and multiply by 5 and I get 85. 22 times 1 is just going to stay 22, and 27 times 4 is going to get me 108. So when I add those numbers up, I do get 239. Now, without the original list where I couldn't just count them, how would I know there must have been 12 numbers in the list? Well, think about it. There were 2 numbers here, 5 numbers here, 1 number there, and 4 numbers there. So in all, there must have been 12 numbers in my list. So if you add those numbers up, you do indeed get 12. Well, see, that's exactly the same thing that I got the last time. See, look back at this other slide. Remember, we got 239 divided by 12, so we got 19 and 9/10. So using this formula, I would also get 19 and 9/10. So this is the formula for the mean of a table. So when you don't have your original list and all you have is a table, you find the midpoint of a class and multiply it by its frequency for every class that you have. And then you add all those up and get a sum like 239. Then you add up the frequency. So I added these frequencies up and got 12. And when I divide those two things, I get the mean of a table. So you've got to be able to find mean, median, mode, and mid-range for a list of numbers. And you've got to be able to find the mean only of a table. So go to Moodle and look for that posted homework. If you have any trouble, then you can just see me in class the next time I'm in class. So Thursday for some of y'all and next Tuesday for the others.